It may come as a surprise to you, but I think about social media a lot, not just because I make a living on it, but also just as a user of it, mostly while I'm sitting on the toilet. But that's a lot. And over the past, I'd say probably a year, I've become increasingly worried about the future, not just of my own content and people finding it and watching it, because I've always had an everlasting sense of dread about that. But this time it's more about the platforms as a whole and just the future of social media, because it seems like a lot of these platforms have been making a lot of unforced errors over the last year or so in their new product rollouts and just their general directions. And I think it may continue to happen until there's like a change in outlook as to what these tech companies are. Because you have like with the big ones, say Google, Amazon, Facebook, like they have more or less hit their total addressable market of the entire world's population that has access to the internet, right? Like most people on the planet have probably made an active decision as to whether or not they're going to make a Facebook account or if they still use an account that they've made. And until more people on the planet are actually brought online with regular internet access, it's going to be really, really hard to grow on that. But the problem is these companies are seen as growth companies. They are supposed to be able to grow infinitely. Except the problem is when you hit the cap of the world's population with internet access, all of a sudden, all you can really do between the YouTubes, the Facebooks, etc. of the world is just vie for pulling attention away from your competitors for the finite amount of time any person has in the day in order to be browsing on their phone or on their PC. There's only so much you can do with that finite piece of pie. So at this point, your attention is the commodity, and the intention of every platform is just how do we make our experience a little bit stickier than the other platforms so that we can have more of your attention and more minutes of your day in eyeballs on our product. The problem is that in trying to do that, sometimes they're kind of forced to stray from their original mission statements, and it can create new features and experiences that are like, wait, why did you guys do this? This is actually making the product worse. I don't really understand. So anyway, I'll go into like each of the individual platforms. I made a little list with bullet points of all of them and my concerns for each of them. And that way we can get a little bit more specific. So let's, I guess, start off with Facebook because they've had a rough time of it lately with their stock being down about 70% on the year. And again, like they are the perfect example of what I was saying as far as they've kind of hit how many people there are in the world who've actively made a decision whether or not they're going to use Facebook. And they're having a hard time onboarding younger people. And the older population will only be around on Facebook for a finite amount of time. And so how do you bring on new users? Well, that's difficult. So you have Zuck trying to create the metaverse thing. And that strikes me as just like, okay, well, core Facebook business, it's not going to keep growing infinitely. So I got to figure out something else. What's it going to be? Metaverse. Okay. It seems like in the future, we're going to have everybody like plugged in, sitting in a chair, and that's how they're going to live their life. So we might as well be the ones who are on top of that and the big name in that space. And that just, it strikes me as like kind of grasping at like a last ditch effort. This is how we're going to save a core Facebook social media that is no longer expanding at the rate that it previously was. And they also have like the issues with their ads business with the Apple privacy settings that were rolled out over the last year. And just the fact that if you're not having a growing user base, you're not going to have more eyeballs looking at advertisements on the website. So it's like either you just say, okay, we're no longer a growth company. We're just going to turn into a dividend stock, or you have to figure something else out. And I think they're trying to figure something else out with the metaverse, and it's kind of coming at the expense of the other avenues of Facebook's business. And it's kind of a not great situation, but yeah, I don't use Facebook too much, so I guess it doesn't impact me as personally, but They were obviously one of the biggest market cap companies in the world and now have fallen significantly from there. And it's been a wild ride to see. And Facebook, obviously, for corefacebook.com is not their only thing. They have Instagram as well. And Instagram also, I have found myself using it less and less. And while that is just anecdotal, I have seen far more complaints from other people about Instagram, primarily on Twitter or just by talking with other people posting their grievances on other platforms about, Instagram. But I actually can't even use Instagram at the moment. If I load up the app, it is just freezing and crashing and I can't actually navigate it. So it took me half an hour to make my last post that I did on Instagram, and I almost gave up midway through. So not a great place, but obviously they are seeing what TikTok is doing. And they're like, okay, well, we gotta figure this out. We gotta compete with TikTok. So still images, which was our core product at the very beginning, that's not working. It's not driving the engagement that we need. So we got to prioritize video in order to get people's attention and be more sticky and compete with TikTok. So we got to show video, but we also have to serve it more algorithmically. And so even though, yes, you may follow certain people on the platform and you want to see their content in your home feed, you might see some of that, but also we're going to give you reels from other accounts because it's going to be sticky. We're going to get engagement because we have to compete with TikTok. And so slowly you just lose what the application was created for, because they know that if they left it just at it being a photo sharing platform, you seeing the photos from your friends in your home feed, that it wouldn't grow the way that it needs to meet their criteria and their hopes and their dreams. So at the expense of maybe the product and many people's experiences, they shift in this different direction until, who knows, maybe it works in the long term. Maybe it does bring more people on who are using it. But you have, boomers like me who are like, okay, well, I can't even use the application. But even if I did, I follow 2 people and I rarely see any of the things from them in my home feed. It's just stuff from who knows. I have no idea. And people who have followed me, they don't really see the stuff that I post because it doesn't get served to them algorithmically. So I don't know. And you want me to pay in order for me to be able to serve my content to all the people who followed me? Yeah, no thanks. So yeah, Instagram is that's been a rough one as well over the last year. And I have never was I super consistent with my use of it, but it's definitely declined significantly as of late. Twitter. Why don't you talk about that can of worms? So Twitter is a bit of a different situation. I think Facebook fits the having hit the total world population probably the best out of all the examples. Twitter is different for pretty obvious reasons, but I'm a little concerned for the future of Twitter, more so just because I don't know how serious Elon Musk is about his work on the platform. I don't know if he sees it as a plaything, like a pet project, if he genuinely wants to improve it as a website. I'm sure there are many, many more people in the world who could be brought on to Twitter. It's just, I don't know. Just based on the first week or so after he's taken over, it's been some iffy decisions that have gone on, and it might just, rough first week, just testing things out, but it's a little up in the air on that one. That said, Twitter as a platform, I don't think they've ever had big margins, if they ever even been profitable for that matter. And so their business model was always something that could be improved. And who knows if under their previous management, if they would have eventually been able to figure out a way to be more sustainable. But I think that the future of Twitter has to look different, especially if he's looking to recoup his $44 billion acquisition of the company, because I don't think that just the ad revenue alone is going to be able to compensate for that purchase price. So that's why they're obviously looking into subscriptions. But it may end up just being a drastically different product in several years than it is now. There have been rumors that they're going to, involve banking on the site. Maybe instead of PayPal starting as money and then trying to kind of social mediaify it with Venmo and stuff, Twitter will have started with social media and then they're going to work their way into finance. It's just going to be the reverse or something like that. I don't know, but I do think it's going to change dramatically. And I do wonder how the verified stuff is going to turn out. But that said, I've always enjoyed Twitter as like a quick and easy place to like get information, see what other people are doing, what's new. And I hope that we don't lose the ability to use it for that. I generally do think that Twitter has the ability to be a good for the world in sharing information with people. And as long as it's able to continue in a good direction, I think it can do that. But I don't know. I do worry for the future of Twitter, but it's not the same situation as Facebook. TikTok, on the other hand, is probably in the best position, I think, out of any of the social media platforms. But it does have some, shall we say, national security risks that are associated with it. And as such, there is the ever-looming possibility of either a forced sale happening that ByteDance has to offload the US TikTok. I guess TikTok is the international version. Douyin is what it's called in China. So TikTok would have to be offloaded if it was still to be usable in the United States, or having to be shut down. That is an ever-looming possibility with TikTok. I don't know if it'll happen or not. I seems wild, but the US has done similar things with companies like Huawei before. So that's more of a regulatory risk. TikTok has been the thing that has been driving the changes in every other platform. So they are definitely in the position of power in the social media space. But if regulation kicks in and they aren't able to operate, then it doesn't matter how much of a position of power they are in if people can't actually access the application. So yet another issue to think about for anyone who is on TikTok. I mean, there was that scare a couple of years ago, and I'm sure that many of them have diversified since then because they saw that it was a possibility, and that's resurfaced recently again. So it's different, but still there are risks associated with it in the future. Then we have Twitch. Twitch, I made more of a deep dive video in recently, but I think, with tightening economic conditions happening at the moment all across the world, Twitch, which I assume has never been profitable, all of a sudden Amazon is saying, yeah, it's not going to fly anymore. You're going to have to do something about that, right? Okay, we need you to start turning a profit. You're going to start flipping some levers here and there, rolling out some new things in order to be profitable. Otherwise, it's an uncertain future for you. And so the revoking the 70-30 subsplits for the partners that had it, that was obviously one step. And the fact that VODs do not save on Twitch, despite it being a company owned by Amazon, which has AWS, which is like the world's biggest internet backbone, is wild to me. And it really shows that if VODs were stored and they were able to be accessed, I guess the amount of money that they would be hemorrhaging in AWS costs just means it's not worth doing. And I mean, I can't see it getting better unless things dramatically change. But if anything, it seems like things are going to continue to tighten until Twitch is able to be more self-sustaining than it already is. And I'm sure for a while it was okay because we had looser monetary policy. But now it's getting to a point where it's like, all right, you got to shape up or we're not sure how much longer this is going to last. And this is one that scares me more because Twitch is basically where I generate the majority of hours of my content, because I'm streaming, say, 3 hours a day on average, and that goes up on Captain Sparkles too. And that is the majority of hours of content, both on Twitch And on YouTube. On YouTube, it comes from Twitch unless I stream more on YouTube, which I have the option to now because of their change of policy a few months ago, where it used to be exclusive on Twitch, but now they dropped that requirement and I could do a YouTube stream and have done a few of them. So I don't want it to go, though. I like having diversification, right? That's one of the main reasons that I've always stuck with Twitch, is that I never like to put all my eggs in one basket. And if I were to only stream on YouTube, I feel like it sort of would be doing that. So it's not something I would like to lose. But again, I am worried about it. And that leaves us with YouTube, the platform that we're on. And I will say, again, for all the flack that YouTube gets, I think that they have probably, well, maybe, along with TikTok, have done the best job at staying true to their product. They serve YouTube videos. There are still tons of creators who are making content. YouTube is still unequivocally the best place to monetize content on the internet that is at least ad supported. I'm sure there are people who have their own websites or other websites where there's paid content that's for fans that are pretty lucrative. But in terms of ad-supported content, YouTube is still the most sustainable place to be generating content. There really are not alternatives, and they have done a good job at maintaining that. And even though obviously YouTube Shorts is created in response to TikTok, I am happy with the changes that they have made recently with Shorts, branching out the tabs, kind of separating Shorts into its own ecosystem, so it's not forced on you. If you want to watch some Shorts, you can. If you just want to stick to the long form video content, then you can also kind of maintain that environment. And so I do think that YouTube is still on the right track with their product development. I'm happy to see that because YouTube obviously has always been my primary platform. But there is still some concern, and it's not as much with the direction of YouTube as a product and what it's doing with content, but it's actually more so based on the ad side of things. And this is overarching with any ad-supported tech social media company. But because we're in a situation where the economy is tightening up, and if you're interested in more about what that means, I would recommend looking up maybe some finance channels that can explain recent interest rate hikes and the Federal Reserve and monetary policy. And it's not just in the US, it is all over the world. But for a long time, you had companies that were able to raise lots and lots of money, not have to focus on being profitable. They could always just dip back into the VC piggy bank if they needed more in order to try to continue just growing infinitely. Growth first, profitability second. And a lot of these companies are the ones that were spending lots and lots and lots of money on YouTube advertisements. And as that tightens up a bit, I think the first one that we're really seeing is probably in the crypto space. There are a lot of companies that are imploding right now. A lot of those companies are ones that would be spending a lot of money on YouTube ads or sponsorships with YouTubers. And as that starts to dry up, it means there's less ad spend to go around, which means ad rates will fall down, or people won't get as many direct sponsorships, product placements as they were before. And so even though YouTube as a platform may still be good in terms of its product direction, you have it more difficult for a newer creator to get to the point of being able to do it full time. You have people who maybe got to the point of doing it full time who may have a hard time being able to keep it up. You could even have more established people who've taken on a lot of employees, really built a company around what they're used to expecting in revenue, all of a sudden having to make some significant changes, possibly having to lay people off. And that can lead to a lot of issues. And I worry that we might start heading into an environment like that. Now, I obviously, I make videos. I can see in my analytics how much money is being made. And there hasn't really been much of a dip so far. Q4 is the biggest ad spend of the year. Everyone's trying to get their products out for Christmas, get people to buy them. It always drops massively going into January. And I'm curious if next year we're going to start to see things trend downwards in comparison to 2022. I don't know, but I think it's a risk seeing so many of the companies that are doing the advertising are ones that aren't necessarily profitable. They're startups, VC funded, and I do have concern about that. So anyway, all that to say, I guess the moral of the story is, like, if you're a creator out there who happens to be watching, don't panic. Nothing should happen overnight, but it is always good to diversify and be mindful of your expectations and your scale. You know, if you have employees, just making sure that everything is in a place where you could pivot if needed. And I also want to say there is definitely more of a tendency for people to make videos about possible negatives, because when it comes to predictions about, you know, economics, monetary related things, the future of platforms, if you make a prediction that's maybe not so great, but that doesn't end up happening, people will just be like, oh, thank goodness he was wrong. It all turned out just fine. If you make predictions that things are going to go really, really, really well, and then they don't, then people are mad at you because they're like, what? I thought this was supposed to go well. I acted on your intel, and now it's not gone well. Why would you do this? So it's always easier to make negative predictions. Hopefully everything I said will be overblown. Everything will turn out great, and it could be the case. We'll see. But I am a little bit more worried now about the outlook for social media than I have been at previous points over the course of my making videos. No one knows, but it's just, I think it's an interesting topic nonetheless. So thanks for tuning in. If you've stuck around through one of these rambling social media deep dive videos, appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.